Hi, everybody. I'm Stacey Ray, and I would like to talk to you a little bit today about BRCA. And I'm just going to speak to you frankly. I don't have any points planned or anything, so just kind of come along for a ride with me. And I'm sorry that I wasn't super prepared. I find that I always do a little bit better when I just kind of speak from the heart. And this one is really close to my heart due to personal experience. I do find that when I try to get prepared, I stammer over myself and I forget where I am. And if I rehearse something, I forget half of it. So I do a little bit better this way, anyways. Now, because this is so close to my heart, I might get a little emotional. And I'm not really sorry for it because anybody here who hasn't really gone through a breast amputation needs to see what it's like to be that person, especially if you do any kind of restorative or paramedical tattooing, which is the audience that I'm kind of speaking to, but really anybody who cares to know anything about this stuff. Now, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I made a little sassy little post the other day about pink washing. And that's what prompted me to want to do this very raw talk with anybody who is interested in listening. I know I'm not going to get a lot of views. It doesn't matter. The views that the people that do show up for this are is your heart that I'm speaking to. This isn't the kind of thing everybody wants to talk about, right? So back to pink washing. So the pink washing just means people who throw pink ribbons on everything, hoping to drive up sales and using it as a marketing ploy, hereby, therefore, cheapening what survivors actually go through. If you want to learn more about the business behind the pink ribbon, watch Pink Ribbons Inc. I watched it for the first time about 10 years ago. It's an older movie. It's a documentary. It's very much needed in our world for people to understand because it shows you how the business of breast cancer and breast cancer research even leaves out the people who go through it. Now, BRCA literally means breast cancer. BRCA means breast cancer, but what it refers to is a genetic mutation. I am BRCA1 positive, and my mother died from ovarian cancer. BRCA1 causes hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. And that is classified, the acronym they made up for that is HBOC, hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. So my mother, maybe 10 days after she died, we got a letter saying that she had had this diagnosis, that she was positive. And then I had a letter from Cancer Canada telling me to go and get tested. They told me I had to go speak to a genetic counselor and then a genetic doctor. And then they wanted to take me in for genetic counseling so that I could discuss risk management options. Okay, following along. So when I went in, so I just watched my mother die. And so I was like, I don't want to go through that. I saw what chemo did to her. I saw what she went through. I saw how hard it was. She was the strongest woman I ever know. Some of you guys think I'm a hard ass. You should have met my mom. And I am nothing compared to my mother. She was a warrior spirit through and through. And cancer kicked her ass to the curb. I was like, I'm I'm young. I was 32 when she died. I was like, I'm young. I don't want to go through that. I'm not ready for that kind of thing yet. And I didn't really trust after seeing what my mother had gone through, what we learned about Western medicine. I was like, I don't trust chemo. Radiation is devastating to half the people who take it. And that's all that's available in the Canadian I don't want to say socialized medicine, but in Canada, medicine's free. But there's this weird little backside to that where you can only get the treatments on the list. And if the treatment you seek is not on that list, the doctor isn't even allowed to tell you about it. So in Canada, it's really great for run-of-the-mill stuff. Like that kind of medicine approach to medicine is really great for run-of-the-mill stuff because you don't have to worry about it. You know, if a roofer breaks his leg and can't work for 3 months, he's not going to lose his house, right? So that's a good thing. Where in America, where I live now, sometimes to get the care you need, you have to pay a lot, and sometimes you don't have that money, especially these days after all of the COVID debacle. A lot of people lost their businesses. A lot of people are out of work. Anyways, so back to my decision to choose a risk management option. So I went in and I talked to the genetic counselor as I was instructed, but I'd already kind of in my mind made up my decision. I just wanted to know the semantics of how this decision was going to play out. Because like I said, I just watched my mother go through that. And I was like, I ain't going through that if I can help it. To me, the BRCA1 diagnosis kind of felt a little bit like a get out of jail free card at the time. At the time, that's what it felt like. So while I was talking to the genetic counselor, the genetic doctor jumped in. And she was like, oh, this is Stacey Ray, blah, 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 that you're going to be seeing him next. And I'm like, can I just tell you right now that I want to get the testing done? Because they wanted me to go through a thought process, a supported process to decide if I even wanted to get tested if I had this gene. And I was like, look, I'm my mother through and through. I had a breast reduction done when I was 23 years old. So I'd already kind of been disconnected from that area a little bit and used to seeing scars. So it put me in a different kind of mindset towards my relationship with my body already. And I had necrosis. If any of you do this kind of work, you need to understand what necrosis is. I had experienced necrosis, so I'd already kind of like turned down the taps on feeling like this was a big part of who I was as a woman. So, so I was like, I just want to get the testing done. Can I get it done today? And he's like, well, we want you guys to think about it, like people that are going through this process. I'm like, no, my mother just died like 2 months ago, not even. I'm like, I would like to get the testing done today. Can you please write me a prescription? Can I get it done here in the hospital? It was a children's hospital. They had an office in it. And so he was like, pushed against it again, and I insisted again, no, I would like to get that testing done today, please. And they wrote me the test. And so then I looked at the counselor and he left, he went and wrote the test. He came and had a receptionist bring it back in. So when I had the prescription, that whatever the paper saying I could go get this test, I just said to the counselor, I'm like, we're done here, right? Like, I'm like, is there anything else that you think that I should know before I go and get this test? And she was kind of like, her whole little way of supporting people was out the window because I just kind of bypassed the whole thing. And I was like, I just want to get the test done and know if I have it or not. So she's like, okay, are you ready for a positive response? I'm like, I'm almost expecting it. She's like, okay, I just because you're on the ball, you just watched him. She's like, you're in this, you're in it. I get it. I was already doing this work when my mother became diagnosed with breast cancer. I took a mastectomy tattoo seminar with Vivine Lazonga and Mary Jane Hawk that changed my life. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And that was in 2006 or 2007 at a national convention. So I had already been moving into doing this, like thinking about doing this work. So I was already researching like what would it be to do this tattooing, blah blah blah, mastectomy scar cover-ups, right? Which was unheard of back in 2007. There wasn't a lot of people doing it other than those two, really. And so anyways, I went down the hall and I sat there with all the little kids because it was the children's hospital, and I went and got my blood work drawn. And of course, a few days later, I was like, I'm my mother through and through. I look like her, I sound like her, we have the same body type, I was like, I even got the same like crooked smile, like I knew it was going to be positive. But it still was like, my heart sank. Because I was like, fuck. Okay, now I got to do something about it, right? So then I made an appointment with a different counselor within that whole system. So it was like they each do their job, right? And so I made an appointment with the next one. Now I want to talk about my risk management options. She was telling me at least 25% of women back then, so this was 2009. Back then, she said at least 25% of women receive a prophylactic mastectomy, preventative mastectomy. So I was like, okay, well, I kind of expected that. So with a BRCA1 diagnosis, you have up to an 83% chance of getting breast cancer in your life and an up to 66% chance getting ovarian cancer in your life. So they also want to do an oophorectomy on me. And I told them that I would do it by the time I'm 40. I'm 47 now. I have not done it yet. I do not want to. I just feel like that wasn't going to be my problem area, right? So then, so she started sending me for diagnostics. Okay, we have to get you in for a mammogram. We don't usually do them on people this young, 32, 33 now, maybe. And she's like, so we'll make an appointment for that. And I want you to read through all this stuff. We have some paperwork to give you that you can read through on what this kind of stuff involves. And she said, I will tell you this. I will tell you that one young woman that I worked with who was 27 or 28, she got her BRCA1 diagnosis, said, well, I've always wanted to go do a mission. So I'm going to do that before I consider these options, any kind of surgical options, right? She's like, I'll just go do my mission that I've been planning. And so she went and spent a year in Africa and with the church or whatever. And did this lifelong thing she wanted to do before she started getting into this super serious aspect of her life. Because you can't go back. When your life gets serious, you can't go back to that naive place, right? And this young lady that I've never met, it was about a year and a half between the last appointment and then the next appointment, between her planning the trip, getting back from the trip, making the next appointment, right? It was about a year and a half. And she had aggressive stage 3 turning in, just becoming stage 4, where it adheres to the surrounding tissues cancer in that short of a time, from having no signs of cancer when she left, before she left, to a year and a half later having an aggressive cancer that they had to do a lot of treatment on. So I was like, okay, can we hurry this up? Now, they did the first diagnostics, whatever, squish your, I'm too much in my feelings about it to remember the words. The words that I know very well are just aren't coming to me right now, because I'm very much in my feelings about the experience, which is why I decided to have these talks a little bit more publicly, because this is my highest form of love. This is the highest expression of love that I can have for the people in my community, is to help you understand this stuff without going through it. But I can't keep having this conversation over and over again, because I don't want to relive the trauma for other people's curiosity. So that's why I decided to do this today. So when they found a mass, they were obviously concerned. I believe, looking back on my life, that the mass was from the necrosis I had experienced when I had a breast reduction done when I was 23. Necrosis is death of tissue, and it can eat through soft tissue. And with the breast reduction, they just cut out the breast tissue and kind of sew it back up. So there's a lot of tissue, inflamed tissue, that it can eat through on the inside. So I was like, that's probably what the mass came from. And they're like, it might be, but we have to keep an eye on it. And I'd already made the decision to get a mastectomy, and they knew that. They knew that I was already committed to that, because I knew that I could cancel that at any time. It takes about 3 years in Canada to go through making a decision and being on the other side of the surgery, when the surgery isn't like needed and necessary. And like I said, the words elude me when I'm in my emotional state, which is where I am right now, speaking to you from my divine feminine experience. So I had a mastectomy. I had a preventative mastectomy. The doctor wanted to do a tram flap on me, which is cutting out your belly tissue and rooting it up and reconstructing your breast with your belly tissue. But they take, with a tram flap, it's kind of archaic. They take they just kind of cut everything out of it. They cut out like the muscles, like they just kind of like take the chunk of flesh, right? Where now they have a DF flap that they didn't have in Canada back then. But now they have a DF flap where it's more of a microsurgery and they separate things a little bit more. Now, what happened was I made my decision to get a tram flap. I was like joking around to my friends, oh, I get a tummy tuck too, which was not how I felt, but I was trying to make it easier for them to understand what I was going through. So when you meet people who've been through something serious and they joke about it, they're doing that for your benefit, not theirs. It's probably not how they feel, because it's horrible to have your body chopped up. It just is. Joking about it doesn't make it easier. It just makes it easier on the people around you, so they don't get scared away, because it's a really lonely road. People don't really understand what you're going through when you go through something like this. They don't know what to say. They don't say anything. They don't want to say the wrong thing. So it gets really lonely, right? So anyways, I joked around. I get a free tummy tuck, which was not how I felt. And then I talked to a lady who said, I had a tram flap. I'm happy with the results, but I used to ride horses and I can't ride horses anymore because of the damage that it did to her abdominal muscles. And I was like, I just bought a really fast horse. I was just kind of like coming into being a pretty decent barrel racer. I was like, I can't give up that. I love it too much. Oh man, I'm not ready for that. And she's like, I just thought you should know. My aunt put her in touch with me. She's like, oh, my friend went through this thing. Can I give her your number? I really want you to talk to her. But that was why. But my aunt didn't want to tell me. So that's how we talked. I've talked to other people before they get the surgery and told them my thoughts about it. It's the way that women pay it forward and support each other. And so we have these in-depth conversations with people in fear state and joy state, and going through the nitty-gritty of it. So I don't just speak from my own experience. And because I specialize in this tattooing and I mentor tattoo artists who also do restorative tattooing, I'm not only speaking from my experience, I get to speak from all of their experience and what I've learned from all of them as well, right? So I spoke to another woman who said she has to roll over and push herself off the bed to get out of bed. She's like, I can't sit up from laying down anymore. That's the only thing. And I was like, that sounds really bad. I was like, that sounds really scary. I didn't think that I know that if you were living with it, you're like, man, it's no big deal because you make allowances for your experience. But I just didn't want to agree to taking that risk now that I knew that it was in there. When I talked to my doctor, he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me that those things could go wrong. Oh yeah, some people have complications. Well, knowing what I know now, I think almost everybody has complications. So anyway, it scared me. And I decided at the last minute to get an implant reconstruction. And we're coming up on 20 minutes, so I don't really want to talk too much more than 20 minutes. So I'll go through the rest of this pretty quickly, and thank you for bearing with me. So I had an implant reconstruction, loved the results, was pretty happy with my body. I got tattoos. I got these feathers tattooed all over the place down onto my torso in like a little V shape. And it looked really pretty. Samantha Ray did it. She did a beautiful job. It was really beautiful. Like I had pretty nice results. I had botched nipple tattoos, and that's why I decided to do something pretty. At first, I just wanted to feel normal. So I wanted nipple tattoos. And I went to a nipple tattoo trainer and we worked together, and she didn't understand how to tattoo scar tissue and completely destroyed my skin. And not on purpose, of course, but it happened. So I was like, okay, well, now I have to do something pretty because we can't fix them. The skin is too destroyed. It won't hold pigment. And I had to go through a grieving process over that. The hope that I had that would have made me feel better about my body because of how much I hated not having nipples, how much not human or not womanly or not worthy I actually felt not having nipples, and in my head trying to justify it, and I'm fine, everything's fine, but it was not fine. So then having nipple tattoos that were essentially botched, it made me feel even worse about my body. And I thought the only way that I can reclaim this, because I do this work anyway, I'm already teaching people how to do this work, I'm immersed in this, I'm going to do something big and beautiful. And I didn't realize how good I could feel about my body. So that was a good few years. I really enjoyed that. And then they recalled my implants. So then I had the textured gummy bear implants, and they're super problematic. And when I learned about that, I was like, I was sick. I was having all these problems. I was, depressed. I don't understand what's wrong with my body. I'm like, I'm not okay. I would just, every once in a while, I'd just say to somebody like, I'm not okay. I don't know why, like, I'm not okay. I'm just not okay. I didn't understand what was happening, but I was sick from the implants. So research breast implant illness, BII, also research gel bleed, because that's a real ugly little secret right now. And gel bleed essentially will tell you that it doesn't matter if the implant is saline or silicone, up to 41 toxic carcinogens are leaching into your body from the encasement. Look into that on your own. What I learned did not make me happy. It made me want them out. Okay, so now I'm like, okay, now I want them out. Now I've been through how many versions of my body? Pre-breast lift or breast reduction. So I needed a breast reduction, hurting my back, the big, super massive breasts, which I wish that I had to just learn to appreciate and not done anything to. I wish I could have just learned to appreciate what God gave me. So if you guys are thinking, if anybody's watching this and thinking about breast surgery, please don't spend that money on counseling and just learn to love what you have. Don't start with these roads, but we never really end up happy with the results, and we're scarred, and people might say that they're happy with them, but deep down inside, when I start talking to them, they're like, yeah, I wish it was better. And yeah, actually, I don't feel good. And actually, and the truth starts to come out. So like I said, I'm not just speaking from my own experience, but from every heart that I've connected with over this topic. So, breast reduction version of my body, mastectomy version of my body with tissue expanders that were pretty much just flat, blowing up the tissue expanders, swapping them out for the implants, untattooed version of my body, no nipples, nipple tattoos, botched nipples, tattooed and pretty beautiful. I was actually really happy with my body when I had the big, beautiful tattoos over the implants. And now indented because they put in pretty big implants. We're over 20 minutes. Sorry about that. They put in pretty big implants, bigger than I agreed to. My surgeon did not listen to me, and I confronted him about it. And he said, well, on your frame, we have to have the big implants. And I just made an executive decision. And I was like, my frame, I was like, fine, like, you can call me chubby, but I was like, I'm only 5'5". I'm only 5'5" tall. Like, my frame, I'm like, I was really looking forward to having small breasts, but he didn't care about that, which is another too common thing. I hear about that a lot. So I just thought you guys should know that too. I'm not the only one that happens to. You wake up with bigger breasts than you want. So anyways, I had that version. Now, because the breasts were quite large and they were under the the pec muscle could never really come all the way around the implant. So they used alloderm to patch me up, which is cadaver tissue. So it's cadaver tissue with the DNA engineered out of it. And they make these little patches, alloderm. And so they used that and they anchored it to the lining of my ribs so that it would stay in place, and tried to kind of keep my muscles as closed as possible. Well, those muscles will never go back. So now that they had to cut out the capsule around the implant, which is really the toxic part, that's the part that your body attacks in breast implant illness, and it can cause all kinds of immune disorders. So they had to cut out all of that. And they cut a little bit into the lining of my rib cage to remove that alloderm patch. And it nicked a blood vessel. And I had some pretty severe hemorrhaging. And I lost almost 2 liters of blood in a couple hours. And I almost had to get a blood transfusion. And I almost died. And like, I wasn't that close, but I was close enough for it to mess with my head. After everything that I've been through, I'm like, now this, like, what the, right? Like, man, like, for real. And so now I consider myself permanently deformed, because the skin here, the scar, it's not, I had some cupping done and they freed it up a little bit. My Jen Denman freed it up a little bit. She did some cupping on me. She knew what to do and freed it up. So the skin does kind of move a little bit. But when I show people, I'm like, that's my rib right there. Like, you're feeling my rib right under that skin that's already thinned out because the implants made the skin so thinned out. And then I've got like muscle bunched up here, and then muscle bunched up down at the bottom on both sides of where those implants were. And here we are. I don't even want to get tattooed again. Like, I just like, okay, so the emotional side of it is like, I don't know if I'll ever love my body again. I hope I do. And the way that I'm trying to turn this chicken shit into chicken soup is helping other people. And that is why sharing this knowledge is my highest expression of love. And I know Breast Cancer Month, there's a lot of stuff going on with fundraising, and they say awareness, but really it's fundraising. Please watch Pink Ribbons Inc. if you haven't watched it yet. And please don't donate to any corporate fundraisers. And here's why. Because they use all of that advertising as tax write-offs, so that benefits them not having to pay taxes, while they're still like benefiting from the advertising. And people are like, oh, I'll go use that bank or that energy company because they care about the community. That's not really what it's about. And the money that they do invest, the portion of that, which might only be a penny on the dollar, because they don't have to be accountable to that, the people that are running those things are getting 7-figure incomes for running those advertising campaigns. That's where the money is actually going to. And the maybe penny to dime on a dollar that goes to research is going to their own labs, where they will patent whatever comes out of the research and monetize it. So that's the ugly side of this month, and why I'm like a little bit like pink washing. So I'm just going to continue to do what I do and just pay it forward and try to help women love their bodies. And right now, my biggest focus is on tattoo artists and trying to empower them with the same knowledge so that they can help their clients love their bodies more. I can't tattoo everybody. So if I can help other tattoo artists, then it's like I get to make a bigger impact with the knowledge that I have from living through what I've lived through. And so what we are doing, my big gift for this year is the A.R.T. Areola program. My big gift. My team, they're going to be the ones doing the work. I just am trying to pull it together and trying to like, here's what we're going to do, but we're going to do it year round. Everybody participating locations will be having a free clinic, like an areola clinic once a month, where they will give away a free stellar areola tattoo, because they know, because I train them. I wouldn't recommend anybody I wouldn't get tattooed by. So I train my students, I train them to the level that I would get tattooed by, if they're willing to do the work, because they do have to draw, and not all areola tattooists want to draw. So if you want to draw, if you want to work hard, I will show you how to put that work good and do quality this nice. Now on these free clinic days, they'll also be gifting three free nipple backs placements to people in their community. We've already got some people signed up. We've got someone in Chicago. We've got somebody in oh my gosh, see, I don't have anything prepared. I'm speaking from emotions, not anyway. So I got a list. Maybe I'll put it in the comments here. There's going to be a list. I'm going to be talking to more people. Will be joining. So instead of just trying to squish Breast Cancer Month into a marketing ploy, I'm going to take this time to let you guys know what it's like to lose your breasts 2 or 3 times now. And what we're doing about it year round. I love you all. Ooh, 28 minutes. I totally went over. I'm sorry. If you stayed the whole time, if you're still here, thank you for staying. And please like subscribe and share. You got to ask, right? Share this. If you want anyone in your community to hear these words, if you think it'll help them, share it, please. And more this month, I'm going to be talking about different aspects of this stuff this month. So that's why I say subscribe, and please stay tuned. You won't see one other video where I say, hey, please subscribe, because I never say it. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for being here.